See this? See this? We're coming up on 3 years since I jarred this up. And I think it might be time to unleash the power of this fully operational HH Old Dark Fire Ready Rubbed from 2016. I don't know. I just hate breaking the seal on things, you know? But I literally have like 3 bags of tobacco here that I could be smoking, but for some reason, for this antisocial, I want to smoke Old Dark Fire. That's what it looks like outside right now. Well, not right now, but it's raining. There's a lot of rain. And yesterday I could hear the rain while I was in the shower getting ready for the wedding that I had to shoot. Anyway, it's wet. It's wet outside, and that's why I'm glad to be inside in my dry massage parlor smoking my pipe with you. We've had a little bit of drama this week. You guys might know that I was accused of some very vile things, and therefore I felt the need to fire back, to defend myself. Jeff Palmer writes in and says, "This whole thing has gotten out of control. What's next? Abolishing Taco Tuesday. Think of the children. Both of you need to come to your senses while there is still time." Well, Jeff, you don't need to be talking to me about that. I am not the one that accused anyone of communism. And I am also not like Hillman, who writes in and says, "Proud PDGA member and disc golf enthusiast." Hillman. Okay. Unsubscribe. Sound Dude says, "I believe Hillman plays disc golf, but I enjoy his pipe video." Where's my list? We're gonna put Sound Dude down on this list. Law and Smoke says, "This changes nothing," and you're right, sir. You're right. My categorical denial of your salacious accusations. Actually, I looked up the word salacious, and that means having to do with sex. So that was originally my title for my response video, the salacious accusations, and then I looked that up and I was like, let's dial that back just a bit. Because I am a member of a free and open and capitalist society, I encourage you to go visit my frenemy, Law and Smoke, and see his accusations, because I do not fear the truth, unlike disc golf players. Moving on from this topic. Grant by the River, ask Gribbs, "It rained 5 inches here yesterday, and it made me reminisce. Any good hurricane stories?" Yes. I was just talking about, who was I talking to about this? I think my father-in-law was over, and we were talking about hurricanes. So I was but a wee lad of 9 years old when Hurricane Hugo hit South Carolina and then just kind of plowed right up through the like central South Carolina, right up into Charlotte, and then somewhere in North Carolina. We didn't care about North Carolina at that point. So I was living in upstate South Carolina, and the eye passed literally right over us, right over our house. And that's where my main experience with actual hurt, because I think it was still a Category 2 when it hit. We were without power for a week, and that was 200 miles inland or whatever. But then all of our family was from the Low Country, and we were from that part of Low Country, South Carolina that like doesn't really get the benefit of being the Low Country. It's like too far away from Charleston to get any of the tourism dollars, and so they just call it hell. Anyway, there are all these 300-year-old oak trees and stuff like that. Well, not anymore, because Hurricane Hugo, done. Anyway, so we went down there because we still owned a house, some property down there. And this was before, I just realized that we didn't even know if the house was still standing because there was no internet. There was no way to get in touch with any of these people. The phone lines were all down. So anyway, before the power came back on where we lived, we packed up and headed down south, or souther, more southerner, into the wasteland that was left by Hurricane Hugo, and took a bunch of food and water and that kind of stuff to the folks down there, but also to check on the house, which was still standing, and all of the trees had fallen around it. They had not fallen on it. Anyway, the story of that hurricane for me was that was the first time I think as a boy, as a young lad, that I realized that the world wants to kill us all. Like this is not a fun place that we live in. It's beautiful, but it's dangerous. I do remember being awake in the middle of the night, and I remember my dad walking outside during the eye of the storm. That's how I know the eye went over our house, is because we could look up and see the start. My mom was like freaking out, and yeah, anyway. But I remember the neighbor's roof just like flew through the yard, and I remember seeing that and being like, huh, yeah, this is a real deal. Since living in the mountains, we have less of that, but we did, several years back, have two major storms hit us back to back, and that caused, crazy flooding. I don't know if it was a 100-year flood. It was a big flood, and that was interesting to see. I mean, I was a young man at that time, and it was interesting to see sort of the machinations of power. Just watch the mayor try to declare curfew and that sort of thing. I mean, just everything stopped. Everything ground to a halt because nobody could go anywhere. There was no water, and I remember we went down to the creek near the house and lowered buckets down from a bridge because there was no way to get to it because it was so far out of its banks that we lowered buckets down on a rope and filled them up with water to flush the toilet. I thought we were done. I thought we were done with the old disc golf issue, but Over a Pipe has a question. Over a Pipe asks Gribbs, what is the difference between disc golf and froth? They're not words that I ever wanted to use on my channel. All right. Is a disc not simply another name for a frisbee? Is this a flinging game of semantics, or is this a deeper, more complex issue that should be addressed by the upper echelon of our society, such as Mayor Tant? As an ambassador of freedom and preparedness, I charge you to employ said mayor to make a ruling on this issue with all haste. What say you? I did consult the mayor on this, and he says there are some people that call all carbonated sodas Cokes. Some people call all photocopiers Xerox machines. In a similar vein, Frisbee is just a specific brand of flying disc. In a phenomenon called genericization, I think the mayor is making up words. All the flying discs got called Frisbee, just like all small bandages got called Band-Aid, and all lip wax got called chapstick, and so forth and so on. This is I like this existential. I mean, this is not really the kind of dispatch you get from the mayor. This is more of like an empirical decree. It doesn't actually practically address the question, but it gives you like a whole lot to think about. Like when Hirohito went to the emperor about, or was it? Yeah, Hirohito went to the emperor about going to war, and he was just like, sometimes it rains. And he was like, okay, so we should bomb America, right? Anyway, Mayor Tant goes on to say, I think the more alarming statement is that I am being considered the upper echelon of society. Pretty alarming there. Somebody eats toaster strudels and in kind of authority. I don't know, whatever. Sergey Nuez asks Gribbs, as a level 50 shaman, how do you cope with the alienation produced by technology? Do you see the current state of tech as a good thing or as a failure of our society? Is it just society pursuing the wrong tech? For example, Instagram versus space exploration. Well, I think technology is incredibly dangerous. My wife and I were just talking about how we're very glad that we know neither of us is ever going to want an Alexa. Is that even the name for that thing? But we don't want smart speakers. We don't want smart TVs. We don't want anything that watches us as we're watching it. Not cool. And I don't know, I'm sure many of you within the sound of my voice have an Alexa or whatever, and you guys are just stooges for GovCo because those folks are watching you. Haven't you read 1984? The other thing that bugs me is, one of the key parts of 1984 is that Winston and Julia go off and make love in the woods. But there are even microphones in the woods in this world. I think it's been a long time since I've read the book. And that seems really, really, the infrastructure would never be supported by some like big government, more coffee. When I read that a long time ago, I was like, the infrastructure to put microphones in the woods would never be supported by any government agency, right? and it's not, but we carry the microphones into the woods. Are we recording? I don't even know what the hell. My phone is really having problems this morning. Moving on. Having said that, technology is obviously the way of the future, like whether we like it or not. And it's kind of like nuclear power. You know, I think nuclear power is really, really scary. But at the same time, what else are you going to do? Keep burning fossil fuels? You know, so what else are you going to do? Not have email? Are you going to go live in the woods? I mean, I think there's merit to that. I think you know, there are communities out there, religious and otherwise, that just don't want to deal with this stuff, and that's cool. But as a whole, I think that, you know, the species needs to progress, and that this is sort of a cost of doing business. I would like to think that we'll be able to find a good balance between, you know, technological medical care or space exploration and the surveillance state. Also, I think there's a good argument to be made that even beyond the surveillance stuff, it ruins society. And I try to keep that in mind. I try to limit my use of. That's not true. I don't really even try. I am definitely not as plugged in as like your stereotypical teenage girl, but I'm pretty plugged in. I get nervous if I don't have my phone on me, that sort of thing. Like, what did we ever do before cell phones? Yes, it is a concern. However, it's not, for me, as big a concern as, I don't know, losing weight, saving for retirement, those sorts of things that I also ignore. And so it gets lumped in with like, yeah, I'd like to change this about myself. You know, this is one of those things, if I could wave a magic wand, ideally I would only pick up my smartphone, you know, for a certain time of day, and then I wouldn't be, like, while I'm home, I wouldn't have it on me or whatever. That's not going to happen. Derek Tant always has the bright and sunny questions. What infectious disease would you be most terrified of getting? Leishmaniasis is pretty bad. I mean, Ebola, but Ebola you can survive. I mean, you can survive leishmaniasis too, but you have to have like chemotherapy and stuff like that. I think any disease like brain-eating amoebas, any disease that starts with a headache and ends with death, but there's a long time in between where you know that you have a brain-eating amoeba and they can't stop it. Like, you know your brain is going to be eaten, and just over the next several days, like, you're going to lose capacities until you're dead. That would be the worst. Grant Reynard always asks the practical questions. Ask Gribbs, can you explain coloring cobs? I've smoked for 20 years, but I'm pretty unsophisticated with terminology. I'm down for wrecking a cob pipe, just got resupplied with seconds. And this brings up Amy Mack's challenge to me to join her in coloring a cob, buying a cob, and smoking the hell out of it to try to age it. And I have ordered my pipe from Aristocob. I think Scott had surgery this week, though, so it just got shipped on Friday. Won't be here till the next Sunday Antisocial. And what I plan to do with that pipe is to make it pretty much my only pipe. Put all the others on the shelf and smoke that one. So I have some examples here for you, Grant. This is pretty much, I mean, it's not unsmoked, but this is basically a brand new cob with a light finish. This is my general, and I love this pipe a lot. But I've probably only smoked it, I only smoke it once or twice a year probably because it's so big. And if I'm going to be sitting down and tying flies for an hour or something, I'll smoke it. But other than that, it really only comes out on special occasions. Even bigger than that is my freehand, but that different story. Anyway, this is what it looks like out of the box. This is a Legend I have smoked a little bit. Now, granted, this is about how it looked new. This is the most handsome Legend ever. This is the nicest looking one I've ever received. I got this from Aristocob, and I have smoked this a little bit, definitely enough to put a little bit of color on there. I think everyone likes to say that the tobacco and the smoke colors the pipe, and I'm sure that it does, but I think it's mostly the dirt on your hands. Anyway, so this is like brand newish Legend colored. This is a Legend that has been dropped in the river. And as you can see, the tobacco bleeds through, I guess. Something bleeds through when the pipe gets wet. I tried it out. It smokes fine now. This is my original Legend that I bought way back in the beginning of my pipe channel days. And this pipe, I mean, they kind of all look the same on this camera, but this pipe is incredibly weathered. It looks like it's falling apart, but it's actually still going strong. Has been dropped in the river several times, has spent the night outdoors several times, and I've kind of retired this pipe because I've been through so much with it. You can see, I mean, the kernels are like falling out there. And my strategy on cobs these days is I want good-looking new cobs, and then I want my one old cob. I don't want a bunch of old cobs, especially the same model. And so this one is going to be, I actually threw a Legend away this week because I dropped it in the river and I guess the stem expanded. Anyway, the bit kept falling out. And I was like, time to go. It's a $5 pipe. Throw it away when you're done with it. And so this was actually a second. But so this one is going to be the one that hangs out on the back of my adventure pack now. And then this one stays on the shelf as like the retired jersey. But I'll bring it out and smoke it on a special occasion. It's a good old dark fired pipe actually, because it's got a smaller bowl even for a Legend. Anyway, that's the deal with coloring cobs, and I encourage you to wreck a cob, especially he says he's got some seconds coming. Grant also has another question. What video editing software do you use? Always with the practical questions. I have Linux and Apple laptops and a bunch of Android phones. Suggestions would be appreciated. If this helps you start making videos, Grant, I'm glad to help. I use Action Director on my phone and Shotcut on my Windows laptop. Neither of them work very well, but they work way better than OpenShot, which is the program that I use on my Linux laptop, which is the same laptop, it's just different, it's dual boot situation. But I have recently discovered that that laptop has absolutely no video card. Like, I mean, it has like whatever integrated chip came out in 1998 on motherboard. You know, it's not a very capable computer. So I don't think I'm really the best person to ask about video editing software. I'm terrible at videos. I'm horrible at it. I enjoy the simplicity of Action Director on my phone. It can do most of what I need to do. Every now and then, I need to take something into Shotcut and add sounds or something like that. Bo Hutton Hoosier asked Gribbs, do you take your son wading or swimming where you used to go as a kid? No. My kid is not swim ready yet. He likes to be in the water, but he's never been in water deep enough to necessitate swimming, nor has he ever been in water with current. We took him to the beach in March, and he liked to splash around in the surf. I mean, he's 4, you know, he's not there yet. And then he got hit by a big one, and he said, I didn't know there were big waves. Yeah, there are. The world wants to kill us. Back to that. But you know, the places that I have swimmed with my friends are all sort of advanced swimmer, at least intermediate to advanced swimmer places. I mean, I wouldn't want to throw a newbie in there. Not that it's dangerous per se, but it's like, I mean, it was the only place we had to swim, you know, was the river. There was I think there was a pool in our town, but I'm sure the river was cleaner. So it'll be a few years. We do go to the creek, and he likes to splash around. So Bo Hunt and Hoosier also asked Gribbs, how did you and Shovel and Shane meet? We met in middle school. And I don't remember the particulars, but at one point he came over to my house and set my foot on fire. Contemplative Piper asked Gribbs, would you rather get hit by a Prius or kicked by a Clydesdale? I'd rather get hit by a Prius. I really think you'd be better off. I mean, it depends on how fast it's going. But at like normal downtown speeds, you know, 35 miles an hour, you'd probably make it, and I think it would hurt less than getting kicked by a Clydesdale. It'd be quieter too. Fireplug asked Gribbs, following your snake rule. By the way, if you don't know, Gribbly's rules of the woods here. Don't fuck with snakes. That's the rule. And if you do, you get what you deserve. So yeah, I messed around with a snake a little too closely, actually twice in the last week, and got the flu. And so he asked Gribbs, did I deserve it? And I think I probably did deserve it. I think that was God telling me, you know, just stop, just dial it back. My phone is really having problems, so I'm going to cut this short. But I have a secret project that's going to be coming up any day now. Any day now, I'm going to start working on this thing, and I'm going to bring you guys along if I can make my phone work. I also still am posting in my ongoing daily year-long photography project on Instagram at Gribley's Folly. Please go check that out. And this new thing is going to be a photo project, and it's going to be, I'm pretty excited about it. I think it is going to fill some gaps that I feel about my photo project, that it's just not what I want it to be. And I don't know what that is. I don't know. Actually, I do. It's lonely. There's no people in it. But that's kind of my situation. And so it needs more of a human touch to really like make the wilderness photos stand out. I think it's all about context. You know, it's like, okay, here's a shot of a tree. Well, great. That's a pretty tree. But if you don't have the people in the shot to give context to why the tree is important, it just doesn't breathe. When I look at all these photos we're at half a year, so 6 months worth of daily photos. I feel like it's a little claustrophobic. And this secret project is not going to add any people. In fact, it's going to go the other direction. But it is going to be sort of a different look at the same stuff. And I will explain more going forward, but it involves a lot of craft work for me. And it's gonna be a rabbit hole. So it'll be a fun one to go down with you guys. And go check out Instagram at Gribley's Folly. Also, thank you for watching. As always, like and subscribe if that's your thing. There, I finally said it. I finally asked people to subscribe. I don't care if you subscribe. I really don't. I hate to say it like that, but I just hope you enjoy the videos. And that I'm really always honored that people are following along. I don't want to be one of those people that's like and subscribe. But I guess what I'm trying to say inadvertently, using the vocabulary of the 2019 culture. Thanks for watching my videos. I appreciate it. Keep the ends out for the ties that bind.